Welcome back to the second half of our forum. This part is for candidates for the City Council in the City of Cupertino. Once again, before we start with the candidates' statements, I'd like to mention the things I mentioned in the first are things that are important to you. One is the City Channel Program Guide, the Cupertino City Channel. You can pick that up in City Hall lobby kiosk. Also, we have out on the table, which you can pick up as you leave, or you can also get these in the lobby, some League of Women Voters publications. One is called How to Pick a Candidate. Another is Facts for Voters, and this contains all your elected representatives and how to reach them by telephone or mail. Also, we have out there an announcement of a town meeting sponsored by the 5 Cs. It will be held on November 10th in Quinlan Center from 7 to 9. You're all invited. And the last announcement is about the League of Women Voters website called Smart Voter, which you can reach at www.smartvoter.org. And this has statements of all candidates. And the special feature of this website is that when you type in your address, what you get is only those candidates that you can vote for. You don't have to screen through an awful lot of candidates that represent other districts. Also on the Smart Voter website is information on Measure E. The people in the Foothill De Anza Community College District will be voting on this year. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the PTA, the AAUW, the American Association of University Women. PTA is the Parent Teachers Association, and the League of Women Voters of Cupertino Sunnyvale. The format will be the same as it was for the school board candidates. The candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. We will do questions from the audience, and they will have 2 minutes to answer those. If a question is addressed to a particular candidate, that candidate will answer first, and the others will be able to answer also if they wish to. As you write your questions, would you please put only one question on a card? It helps our question sorters if not to have to sort through a lot of questions and figure out which one they want to give to me. So one question per card. We have lots of cards. When you're ready to write a question, just raise your hand and someone will give you a card and they will pass through and get the cards from you. After the opening statements, we will take a 5-minute break, at which time the question sorters will sort the questions, and they go through them looking for duplicates, and that's about the only thing they use for screening. Okay, let's get to the candidates, and they have drawn for the order of speaking. And the first one is going to be Richard Lowenthal.
Hello. My wife Ellen and I have lived here in Cupertino for 16 years. My daughter Kimmy goes to Monte Vista High School. My daughter Lindsay goes to Regnard Elementary. I had a very successful career here in several Silicon Valley companies as a leader, and helped start some of them. But now, at this point in my life, I've devoted my time to community service. I've been working hard as the Parks and Rec Commissioner here in Cupertino, collaborating with neighbors to resolve issues in win-win situations. As chairman of the Cupertino Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I've worked hard to reduce traffic here by encouraging walking and bicycling through improving safety for those modes of travel. I've also been an advocate for recreational trails here in Cupertino on both the Parks and Rec Commission and in the Bike Committee. For our neighbors that need a hand, I'm on the Strategic Planning Committee and on the Board of Directors of Cupertino Community Services. In our local school districts, I'm on the Executive Board of the PTA and School Site Council and Technology Council at Regnard Elementary, and I sponsor the Monte Vista Interact Club. I'm also on the Board of Directors of the Fremont Union High School District Foundation. I spearheaded raising money in the schools to, for example, increase the number of computers at Regnard Elementary by 4 times what they were. I was a leader in the committee that raised money to put the books on shelves at Eaton Elementary. The projects that I'm personally involved in will raise $140,000 for local schools this year. I have a vision for an even better Cupertino that has things for us to do here. Places to go, movies, bookstores again, good shopping, things that we can do here so that we don't have to drive for everything we want to do in the community. But while having a vision is important, we have some serious issues here, particularly in finance, and I want to talk about finance a little bit.
Excuse me, time is up.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
And now we'll hear from Michael Chang.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? My name is Michael Chang. I am an educator. I am a full-time faculty at De Anza College. I have taught there for 10 years. I have served in public office. This is going to be my 8th year. I served one term as a school board member, Cupertino Union School District, and I'm completing my first term here on City Council. Last year, I had the opportunity of being mayor and thoroughly enjoyed that demanding experience and had a very good first term here on the City Council. I have really worked in City Council in a number of areas that I'm particularly proud of in terms of achievements. I'm going to just name 3. One, quality of life. I believe that I have brought better quality of life to Cupertino. I advocated and voted for the diocese property in preserving 159 acres for open space. I advocated for the expansion of the senior center and voted for that. That senior center will be expanded to about twice its present size. I worked on bringing reasonable limits to development, especially in the sizes of houses and the heights of houses. And also, I've worked very hard in bringing community together. The other areas are reviving Leadership Cupertino. I chair the steering committee there. And then also in public safety, re-energizing and expanding our programs such as neighborhood emergency preparedness and community policing. There are many things that I would like to do in my second term, and I want to mention them very briefly. I want to oversee the process of the library, and the other ones I'll mention later.
Okay, thank you. Orrin Mahoney.
I'm going to fly through this. Good evening. My name is Orrin Mahoney, and I'm running for City Council because I care about Cupertino. As a homeowner in Cupertino for the past 30 years and a Cupertino-based Hewlett-Packard employee, I've seen many changes in HP, the Bay Area, and the city of Cupertino. In the midst of these changes, I've seen Cupertino strive to retain its core values, including excellent school system, extensive parks and open space, responsive government, and suburban character. 10 years ago, I decided to become part of the process of working to move Cupertino forward while retaining these core values. I volunteered for the Cupertino Citizens Goals Committee and was subsequently appointed to 2 4-year terms on the City of Cupertino Planning Commission. While on the Planning Commission, I accomplished the following: protected the neighborhoods through house size, mass, and privacy restrictions, protected the hillsides with new hillside zoning restrictions, added over 150 acres of open space to the diocese property compromise, and created a new master plan to enhance the look and feel of Stevens Creek Boulevard. Now I would like to build on my planning commission, business, and nonprofit experience to deal with Cupertino's upcoming issues. Some of the key ones include creating better places to meet and shop by reinvigorating our shopping centers, expanding the library in a manner that best serves the community, providing housing opportunities for people just beginning their careers, including our teachers. There are no easy answers to these issues. All involve tough trade-offs. What I bring to the position is, 1, experience. During my 8 years on the Planning Commission, I spent over 1,300 hours sitting right up here, listening to staff reports and public input, including input from many of you, making decisions that would shape Cupertino's character. 2, commitment to Cupertino. I'm committed to serve on the City Council for the full term. I want to build a better Cupertino for all our citizens. 3, a balanced approach. My approach on the Planning Commission was to listen to all sides and recommend solutions that are adopted because they balance individual rights with the public good of the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on, can all 3 of you see the timer, or should we
Oh,
ask?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The difficulty
I
is
get
not
it.
in seeing.
That was really meant to be, I didn't know if your site was being
That's not the
blocked.
problem.
Okay, one of the hot topics seems to be the library, so I'm going to combine two questions here. What is one is from the Cupertino Courier. I mentioned in our earlier forum that this is a unique way of asking questions. I've never seen this happen before, but someone wrote in and said that he was not able to be here tonight and he had a couple of questions. And this is one of them. What is your current position on the proposed $20 million plus library, Cupertino Library? And then I'm going to add the rest of the questions of this other person. How do you feel about the library expansion, which seems to have changed to library replacement? Where will you get the money? How about the money for longer hours, more materials, more books, computers? What will you sell lease now that the water system brought in $9.3 million? And let's start this with Michael Chang.
Yes, I'm really glad that we are able to bring up this issue because the library, I encourage everybody to find out more about the library. In our research on the library, what we have found out is that the library is being used over capacity. We have the highest percentage of use throughout the county. Just to give you a very graphic example, at any time, a third of the books in the library has to be out of the library. And if all the books come in, they wouldn't fit in the library. And that has a lot of implications on the growth of our library, buying new materials, keeping our collection up to date. In addition, our school population continues to increase. So we're building a library that is for the next 10 years or 20 years. The question then becomes, can we afford it? And I think we need to come up with a financial plan that does work, and I think we do have that. But the key then will always be with our citizens. What we will be planning to do is that in next March, we will be having a vote of whether, a general vote by voters to see if they really do want a library in Cupertino or not. Personally, I'm supportive of it. I feel that we have been able to invest over $50 million for preserving open space in Cupertino. That has increased our quality of life. I think that Cupertino citizens feel also very strongly about the quality of our education, the quality of our library. But I think the choice will be up to the citizens to find out more and vote as they wish.
Thank you. Orrin Mahoney?
Yeah, this is certainly one of the issues as I walk around in the precincts that has most of the attention of the public at this point in time. I've seen all the studies, and I went to the first meeting on this. I guess based on the amount of usage of the library, I'm pretty convinced that it needs expansion. At this point in time, I'm not convinced yet of the $20 million or the scope of that. I think we need to kind of try to take a step back and look at the whole process. If you just trade $20 million and turn it into at 5%, that's $1 million a year, basically one way or the other, that could hire 10 people, for example, or more. So I'm not sure that a $20 million building, if we really can't staff it, is the right way to go. One of the unfortunate things is the money comes from different buckets, as we know. So we run into these issues both with the schools and with the library that, well, this is the money for the building and this is the money for the staffing. I think we need to look at more creative ways around that. So I'm fundamentally in agreement moving forward. I think it needs more review before I could sign off on the current state, and I need to look more at the impact on the reserves as well.
Okay. Richard Lowenthal?
Thanks. I think it's a great question. I also hear this coming up as I walk the precincts. And I think we actually have a pretty serious process problem in the library, and I've been involved in the library forum and involved in this, watching this go on. The fact is that the library has a service problem, and the hours are too short and the lines are too long, and I think we can all agree about that. But the leap from that to a new $22 million building with underground parking and stuffing that between the existing two city buildings, which is the current preferred city council way of solving this, I can't make that leap yet. I haven't seen anything in these discussions that show that even addresses the service problem. So I'd like to see us go back and work with the community to focus on solving the service problem as opposed to a focus on building the building. It may well be that we need to build a building. We probably have to do something, but I can't draw that conclusion yet. The way we are financing it, the way it is in the current City Council approved budget is terribly risky for us. It was a City Council goal and just recently that we keep $24 million in reserves, or basically a year's worth of budget in reserves. The way we are financing these upcoming capital projects in our approved budget is all out of cash, and our reserves go down to $4 million. Even the current City Council policy is to keep $17 million in reserves. So it's a terribly risky policy or plan we have. The budget is terribly risky, and we need to find another way to finance this than what the City Council has approved.
Okay, thank you. I was so eager to get to the questions, I forgot to take our 5-minute break. So we will do that right now. That gives the audience a little more time to write their questions so they can be writing and not having to listen to you it's hard to do both at the same time. So write your questions and get them in 5 minutes. We will resume. This is a question similar to one that was asked of the school board candidates. And it is in relation to our diverse community. Our community is rapidly changing and new immigrants are coming in every day. Do you have any concrete ideas or proposals to deal with this situation in order to increase communication among the diverse population in order to avoid serious conflicts that may happen in the future? And I'd like to start this with Richard Lowenthal.
Okay. We do have our diverse community. We obviously we've had some quick immigration of people from Taiwan, and I think what's happened is that fear has kind of risen up in us. Fear has risen up probably among everybody about just the rapidity of the change, and I think, frankly, the steps that the city has taken to keep it cool are good steps. I think the 5 Cs program as one is a good way of keeping the channel open and talking. My own view is that with time, this will settle out and we'll all become just neighbors again. But that'll take some time. And in the meantime, I think the city does have a role. The city has a role of making sure that the communication stays open, and we do what we have done a good job of, which is keeping violence out of this. We've kept you don't see people spray painting on other people's garage doors. These are things that could happen in other communities, and they don't happen here. And they mostly don't happen because we're talking about it. And so I say more of the same. I say that we keep the issue out in front. We keep talking about it. I think the press has done a good job of bringing it out. And I think we all work to the goal of being good neighbors. And with time, we'll be integrated, and we'll be not talking about this issue at all.
Thank you. Michael Chang?
Yes, this is an important issue, and I'm really honored that this is one of the issues that I have been able to play a leadership role with other people. I think one of the assumptions that I made is that people who live in this community, when you scratch out the service differences in culture, a lot of our perspectives and our needs and our wants are very similar. So what we need are opportunities to get to know each other. And so the city has instituted a whole variety of opportunities for people to get together. Things from bringing back the July 4th fireworks, where the whole community can come together to celebrate a common important holiday, to the 5 Cs that was mentioning, where we increase public dialogue, open dialogue, have town hall meetings to talk about these issues, to other ways of dealing with it. One that I want to particularly mention right now, which I particularly like, is, for instance, an emergency preparedness program. You might ask, what's the relevance? The relevance is that when you let people come together to work together in an issue that is important to each other, that also gives them a chance to get to know each other during that process. And so I thought that we have tried to deal with this in a very creative way. And I think the response from our community has been overwhelming, that we have found out that our opinion leaders in the cities, our institutions, everybody really care about each other. And I think we have a very great future in this area.
Orrin Mahoney?
Yeah, this is an important issue for the city of Cupertino, both for the city and for the school systems. Again, in walking around, it's come up pretty continuously as something that's of concern to just about all the citizens. The way it's usually expressed is and I'm going to say this, as a perceived lack of integration. I mean, people are not unhappy about new people in a community. What they'd like to see is more integration into the activities that are here. There are lots of reasons for that. We all know them. Language, cultural, and whatever. We just need to keep working on it. So I definitely support the activities that have happened so far. I think we need to learn from other cities. I actually ended up calling up the mayor of Fremont because there was a big article in the Mercury News about a month ago about the large Chinese immigration there, and I wondered whether they were having, some of the same issues there, and got some insight from him on that. I would like to say, though, I think both sides need to work on it. It is not a one-sided thing. It is not just people that have been here, and there are a lot of people that have lived in Cupertino for long years. I've been surprised. I could make a big deal that I've been here for 30 years, and when I go around, that's like nothing in a lot of the neighborhoods. So, they need to be accepting of new people that are moving to Cupertino, but it has to work both ways as well. So we need to take all the opportunities to bridge across the diverse cultures. And sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes, and I'll just use an example, and I wasn't there because I was walking precincts, but at the Moon Festival, I think that could have been more of an opportunity to bridge than it turned out to be because of the signage and some of the things. Some of the people that went there to learn more about that culture didn't feel as welcome. So both sides need to work on this, and I think we can.
Thank you. Next will be a question that was asked of the school board candidates also. Do you plan to seek any other public office during the year 2000? And we're going to start this one with Orrin Mahoney.
That's easy. I already said, I'm committed to serve on the city council for a full term.
Richard Lowenthal?
I'm also committed to serving in Cupertino. My only interest is in politics, is serving here in Cupertino. I've been encouraged and supported to run for higher office and declined it before the phone call was over. My only interest is in helping our community and helping it be a community that we all love and has more things for us to do. I think if we make a community like that here, these issues like diversity will go away. If we just focus on our own people, we focus on Cupertino, we focus on the people that make this community, we have things to do here. That's what I want to do, and I think it takes 4 years to do it. I've got a 4-year plan to do it. It's not something you can do overnight. It's not something you can do in a year, but I'm eager to get in and do this job, and it's the job I want to do. I want to work for Cupertino.
Michael Chang?
Yes, our school, my children, I have 2 children in Portal School. They're on break now. And they and my wife, Barbara, they are visiting my mother-in-law in Vancouver. And you ask, what's the relationship? Well, the relationship is that while they're there, the house has been very quiet. They've been gone for about a week now. And I've had some time to think about this issue. And I was struck by how quiet the house is and how much I have missed them. And so I had an opportunity to talk with my wife about the issue of me running. I've been encouraged by a number of Cupertino leaders to look at the possibility of running for the county supervisor's position next November. And I've been, flattered by this kind of attention and the trust that people have placed in me. However, having thought about it, to make a long story short, the last few days, especially over the weekend, I have come to the conclusion that that my interest, my energy, and my role right now is in Cupertino. and that I would want to serve here in Cupertino. And I will not be running in November or March, for that case, next year, year 2000. And this is the first time I've mentioned it in public. I have a meeting with the courier tomorrow, and I will give more of that details tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Traffic seems to be a concern. I'm going to combine two questions here. One reads this way. The commute traffic is becoming an increasing problem by invading the tranquility of our residential neighborhoods. As an elected official, how would you address this problem? And then the other one says, over 1,000 trucks come and go through Monte Vista residential area daily. The traffic, along with air pollution by the cement plant, causes serious health problems. What will you do to improve the situation? Let's start these answers with Michael Chang.
I think that the traffic issue is an issue that's regional. Obviously, traffic don't start and end in Cupertino. It's the kind of issue that we will continue to have as long as we remain prosperous in this valley. It's also a kind of problem that we need to work on continuously. There are a number of things that we can do on a local level that we have been implementing. What we are doing right now is getting new technology to make our lights synchronize better. So that's the number one, I can tell you, that's the number one issue that people write to us about in Cupertino. The lights synchronizing, why does it, that type of thing. So I think we could make use of technology and incrementally make that better. I think in relationship to that, I think traffic safety is also very important. So what we need to do, and we have been implementing, is to work with the school district, with many school site councils and school administrations to make the traffic flow around the schools better, safer for everyone. I think that traffic is something that requires understanding, it requires education, and all those are areas that we should continue to work with, and we should also collaborate actively with regional organizations that try to provide solutions to this traffic problem.
Thank you. Orrin Mahoney?
Yeah, again, most people, when they talk about traffic in Cupertino, when you talk to them one-on-one, end up talking about very local traffic, the stop sign on their corner, the blocked-off intersection, whether they like the speed bumps or don't like the speed bumps. As Michael said, I don't think there's going to be a solution. I think we need to keep working on them. One of the things that I did discover is I think a lot of things get put in to solve a traffic problem and then don't get looked at again. And years go by and the traffic patterns change and 85 comes in or other things happen. And things that made sense 10 years ago don't particularly get reviewed and actually end up maybe causing more problems in some other way. As soon as you block off one street to help that street, it just flows onto the other streets. So I'm not sure there's easy answers. I think we need to keep looking at them and be responsive to the neighborhoods, but also keep that in balance with the flow in the city as a whole. And obviously I'd support the traffic synchronization of the lights as well. As far as the trucks, which was the other part of the issue, I actually live up a couple houses away from one of the truck routes, not from Hanson, but from the quarry at Stevens Creek Quarry. And before we moved there, I looked into the situation with the trucks. There are quite a few regulations now. I guess the first thing I would want to do is see whether or not they're meeting the regulations that are in there. Unfortunately, many of you know the quarry and the cement plant were there long before Cupertino existed, and therefore there's not a lot. The city has done a lot, as much as it can over the past years to try to do that. There are quite a few regulations that are in place as far as the time of day, the speeds, other safety considerations, and if they're not meeting those, we should certainly enforce those.
Thank you.
I see my time's up.
Richard Lowenthal?
This is an issue that fortunately I've been able to work on a bit and make some progress on. I chair the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee for the city, and in that committee, we did the first bike plan in the county to get a few people out of their cars. We're doing the first pedestrian plan in the county now, and that'll get some kids walking to school, some people out of their cars. I think it'll make a material difference. A Parks and Rec issue came up the other night, which was easy to decide on because basically what it came down to is if we can put a gate at Kennedy High School toward the back of the school, kids can walk to school again. We need to start making real progress and stop talking about this issue. There's been only talk about it, with the exception of my little committee. People aren't doing things. The city bought a very expensive new system for the traffic lights and made it sound like we were synchronizing lights when we didn't, in fact. We have the same old demand system as we always had. So you all paid for a new system for the lights, which we didn't change. We programmed the same old way. So it's time to take action. I'm doing it on a daily basis in the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. It's a small way. We're not going to get everybody to start walking. We're not going to get everybody to start riding a bike, but we'll get a few. And we'll start those kids. Our focus is on safety for walkers and for bicyclists. And if we improve the safety, kids will start walking again. Kids will start walking to school, and they'll make lifelong habits of not having to be driven everywhere. The other thing that we need to do is have some more of our things in Cupertino. You shouldn't have to drive to San Antonio to go to a recreational trail. We ought to have one here. You shouldn't have to drive to Valley Fair to get good shopping. We ought to have it at Valco. All those things are driving trips. You shouldn't have to drive to Los Gatos to have a good experience window shopping and get a cup of coffee. So if we start working on a good retail and a good community here where you feel like doing things in the community, you won't have to drive all the time.
Thank you. Next question is addressed to Orrin Mahoney and Michael Chang, and I will call on you in that order. And Mr. Lowenthal, you can answer also if you wish. Regards monster homes. Monster homes have been a concern of residents for several years, yet this issue was only resolved this year. As a longtime planning commissioner, why did you delay this issue? Could we at least require sidewalks on these homes? So let's start with Orrin Mahoney.
Sure. Basically, typically the way things come to the Planning Commission is either from the staff or from the City Council. And I don't want to just hand that off to the Council, but we do serve as an arm of the City Council. When that issue did come up, we did start to work on it, and it took a long time because it's not an easy issue. There was very heated input on all sides of that because we were dealing a lot with people's individual property rights, potentially impacting them in a serious way, but also trading that off against the good of the community and what these homes were doing to change the character of the neighborhoods. I feel very comfortable with what we ended up with, which were a series of design guidelines, because design is equally carries the same weight as the actual size of the house. You can have two houses that are the same size and they would have completely different feels to the neighborhood based on design guidelines. So we've dealt with the design guidelines, and then in the end we dealt with the actual size, leaving an exception process for people that wanted to have a larger home, but then would go into a more extensive design review. Based on walking around, would I have liked to start earlier? Yeah, I would have liked to start earlier, and then it took another 6 months to go through the council, but that's part of the public process. I feel good about where we ended up, and I think you'll see a difference in the homes from now on, but I wish we could have started earlier.
Michael Chang?
Yes, this is, of course, a sensitive issue in our community. And during the year that I was mayor, actually, there was a lot of concern about this. And I took the leadership in putting this issue on the table for discussion and guided this issue in such a way that the City Council and the Planning Commission worked together with this. We had joint study sessions right up here to talk about it. The issues, as was mentioned, is very clear. On one hand, many people in Cupertino, the majority are homeowners, and so they have rights as homeowners. And then everybody else are also neighbors. And so as neighbors and as homeowners, we have two sets of rights. And it's a question of balancing those rights and to do it in a sensitive way. In the end, we felt that we passed an ordinance that was good in three ways. We had three components to it. Number one, was protection of the immediate neighbor. So mitigations, whether it be from vegetation or whether it be landscaping or smaller windows, placement of window. Second, we dealt with the bulk and size and height of the buildings in relationship to the floor area. And then thirdly, we asked for streetscaping so that from the street, these houses would blend in a little bit better in the community. I think it was a solution that seemed to be useful right now, and I think we achieved it in a way that was very collaborative with a lot of input from everyone. And of course, by the way, I supported and voted for that ordinance.
Richard Lowenthal, do you wish to?
Yeah, I'll just say something briefly. I think it's important that we keep some neighborhood character, and that when we go through these discussions, we think about what makes a good Cupertino, and we use some perspective. We're not going to get those decisions easily, and the fact that this took a while, I don't feel like attacking my colleagues here on this issue, because I think it is difficult. You're balancing off a character in a neighborhood and people that have lived there for a long time and their property rights versus somebody that owns this land and wants to do something with it. So it's not an issue, I think, of controversy amongst us. It's a real difficult thing to get right, and takes time.
Okay. We have a new fire station going up. How about campaigning for the West Side Sheriff's Station in Cupertino? And let's start with Richard Lowenthal.
Public safety in Cupertino is rated very, very highly by the citizens of Cupertino, and I think the sheriff's job has done a great job. I'm proud that the sheriff supports me, and the Deputy Sheriff's Association supports me, and I've earned their endorsement through working with them. I think it's good to have our public safety people here in the community. I think it's good for them to live in the community when we can help them do that. So I think the more they're around and kind of walking the beat and making this more of a town and less of a city, I think it's great for us. So if there is a way that we can help make that happen, I think it would be a big win for Cupertino, and I think it would help us build more community to have those people right in here among us.
Orrin Mahoney?
Yeah, I think many of you may know that the city already took a step toward that by having this substation here recently, and I think that's a step forward. I haven't even thought, to be honest, about the concept of a building here to do that. Possibly, if the library was a brand new building, that could be a usage for the old building. But I really haven't thought about it enough to have strong opinions either way on that.
Michael Chang?
Yes, as Orrin has mentioned, we have opened a new sub-service station here in City Hall, and that seems to be working quite well. Cupertino is a very safe city, although given the urbanized environment that we're in Silicon Valley, that remains a high priority for my concerns. The issue of whether to put a sheriff's station here, if we were to build a new library, the old building, one of the talk was that potentially can be a sheriff substation, a sheriff West Side station. Whether that's the best use of that facility, if we were to go that route, I think we need to hear a lot more input from the citizens to really concretely see if that is something that is important and how important it is to have all the police vehicles there and versus other uses of it. So I would wait to think about that, but I am open to it.
Okay. Many years ago, when Rancho Rinconado Incorporation was considered, the county refused to establish a redevelopment district to improve infrastructure because San Jose was taking too much already. How do we plan to help improve Rancho Rinconado, and how will we pay for it? And we'll start this with Michael Chang.
In annexing Rancho Rinconado, we had a number of principles in mind. Number one was that we, as a city, wanted to give the decision to Rancho Rinconado's residents to decide whether they want to be formally a part of Cupertino. Most of us happen to feel that they've always been a part of Cupertino. They've got Cupertino addresses, use Cupertino facilities, and so on and so forth. So that was an important principle. The other principle was to look at, in order to bring Rancho up to the standards, public works standards of Cupertino, how much would that cost? And that was an important issue for the council, because we have a very fiscally conservative council that over the number of years have been extremely careful with how we spend our money. And so one of the questions there is, are we going to lose money by having Rancho folks in our city? And the answer is that, especially initially, we're going to lose some money. But we felt that it was worth it, because they're part of our community. We want them to be a part of our community. And we have projected the cost of bringing all those public works up to the same level as Cupertino. And so we have indeed already planned for that, and those are being implemented right now.
Mr. Lowenthal?
That's a great question. I've walked the precincts in Rancho Rinconada, and there's a few eye-openers over there. The community could use a little help, I think, from the rest of Cupertino. That we're not supposed to go in there and fix homes. We're not supposed to really upgrade their neighborhood. Our job is to provide a good infrastructure, and I think we need to do that. What we found, if we talk about, one of the favorite projects over there are the sidewalks on Bollinger Avenue. There was money for those sidewalks for many, many years available to the county and available to San Jose. Within a very short time of them becoming part of Cupertino, we were able to include those in our bike and pedestrian plan and in the city's plans for infrastructure, and we got those funded. And those kind of things are generally funded outside the city. If you have a plan, most of the improvements we've seen, the bike lanes that you see, the bike lanes that are going in now at Wolf Road, the improvement on the off-ramp at Wolf Road you're going to see soon, that's funded outside the city. So in fact, once you establish a plan, once the city gets organized and knows what's good for a community, there are usually outside funding agencies to take care of that. So a lot of this is will and preparation. The one thing I think that we really do owe to the people in Rancho Rinconada, and one thing that I've been actively working on is a community park. They don't have a community park. I think we ought to develop the a creekside trail there at Saratoga, San Tomas Creek, and we've been working on that. The planning is now underway, and we're just about ready to start implementing it. That community deserves it, they want it, and I think we should do it. And again, it's not going to cost much city money.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney?
Yeah, as Michael pointed out, this issue was studied both briefly on the Planning Commission, because we don't get as involved with revenue type things, but it was part of the process of making the decision to annex in, that over time it was close to being revenue neutral, and therefore was a good decision for the city, and it will help the city develop in a reasonable way. But I also agree with Rich that a lot of this is just leveraging the things that we already have. Actually, one surprise, again, that I found, there's nobody in Rancho Rinconada that's watching this tonight because they don't have the city cable channel, because TCI doesn't service them, or AT&T or whoever's servicing us now. So I think there are some things that we can do to leverage the existing infrastructure, if you will, that we have, the commissions that we have, the leverage that we already have, whether it be with TCI, whether it be on the parks or whatever. So I'm convinced that over time, you won't be able to tell the difference.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to combine two questions so that we can get one more set of questions in. This is concerning the library again, and they're just two different things, but I think you can answer them together. One is, have alternatives to a new library been thoroughly addressed, such as using the 3 existing high school libraries from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., and thus reducing traffic? And another library question was more about the field next to the library. Why has the council directed the staff to keep hands off the adjacent field? When Wilson and Creekside Park soccer fields be added, why can we not use the field for a public building? So let's start these answers with Richard Lowenthal.
Thank you. Remind me the first question.
Okay, the first question is using the high school libraries
Okay.
as an alternative to building a new library.
Great. We've looked, I'm going to answer the second question first. We've looked at this, at the field issue. The field issue has been very controversial around the library. There's fear that we'll remove open space, and I think that we do have to be careful when we talk about using up open space and be sure that it's kind of a last resort, because once open space is converted to concrete, it's gone. And so that's the concern. On the other side is if we really do need to build a big new $20 million library, we want to do a good project, one that allows for the next expansion that will undoubtedly come, and one that makes it so that it's a building that's well built. So that's where the tension lies. The concern has been on using that field that local youth sports activities would be severely impacted. I've debunked that. I've talked to the commissioner of CYSA soccer, and he's a library advocate. So he says, if we need that field for use for the library instead of youth sports, they will find another way of getting youth sports done. The real issue there is that the current field there is the only one that's unscheduled. You don't have to have a permit to have youth sports there. So they need something with that attribute. The controversy, I think, is over losing open space. I think it's good to have controversy over losing open space, and we should be careful about using it up. On the other issue of using the school libraries, the issue there is staffing. The duplicate staffing costs money that takes out of solving the real problem, which is inadequate services at our library, as opposed to more building.
Mr. Mahoney.
I'll take them in the order, and I guess, the first thing is staffing. I mean, a lot of people right away said, what about a branch library? What about using the school libraries? There are existing facilities, or it certainly would be, there's other things that could be done besides completely replacing that building. But it does come down, apparently, in the study so far, to staffing. Even the existing library, for the square footage that it has, is very inefficient. It's sort of, it's an architecturally very interesting building, but not very efficient for its usage, sort of like the building I work, the way the building is laid out in the building I work in Hewlett-Packard. And they're fixing that. They're squaring it up. Anyway, so one of the trade, that's basically the issue there, but I do think we need to go back and look at that. And again, the money, $20 million, if there's a way to be creative and turn that into staffing, and I don't know enough about how handcuffed we are in not being able to do that, but that could pay for a lot of staffing. So there may be some trade-offs if we get creative on that we can do. I just don't know what our freedom is there. I agree with Rich that the field, I don't want to go back to what was planned for 15 years ago. I've heard those issues. Building was supposed to be there, therefore we should put a building there. I think we should look at where we are right now. Open space is valuable today, and it'll be increasingly valuable as the price of land goes up. If that's the right place to put the library, great, but we should take a good hard look before we do that. And whether we have other soccer fields or not, it's still valuable, and every acre of open space is just going to become more and more valuable.
Thank you. Michael Chang.
Yes, these are very good questions. The alternatives, we have a library expansion committees, and they have looked at some of these issues, and so we certainly need to answer these questions. And like what Orrin said, a number of suggestions. Let me just mention another one. There are two council members that were assigned to this library expansion committee, and one of the members, Don Burnett, was really of the opinion that, well, at most we should just remodel, right? And towards the end, when we found out both the needs and the cost it takes to remodel, he reluctantly says that, well, it makes more sense to build a new one. So there has been that kind of thinking that has gone into this decision. That's number one. About the alternatives, I won't go into in detail right here, but there has been, and they should be scrutinized. I think they should stand up to scrutiny. The second issue with the field, it's a good one. There's nothing cast in stone about this. I think the way the city went about it, before we present something to homework. And so we did our homework, and we did it as best as we thought we could. From that point on, right now, is input time to the point where we make that decision by public vote in March. So if, for instance, at first we thought that the underground parking seems like a good idea. Well, it seems like from a lot of people we heard from, it's not such a good idea. So we're going to probably incorporate that. Thirdly, fiscally, it has to be fiscally sound. We have been able to finance a lot of our open space by borrowing money, right? So the question here is, do Cupertino residents want to finance a new library, right? And we have to study that issue, right, to see if it's worth our while to do that, and what is our vision for that library,
Okay,
whether we want it or not.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question. What, if anything, will you do to provide affordable housing in the city? All present programs seem to result in more expensive homes on smaller lots, even in Monte Vista, which already has small lots. And we'll start with Orrin Mahoney.
Yeah, this is a tough one. You know, I laid that out originally as one of the challenges that face us. I think we need to continue to work on, I'm going to call it entry-level housing. I don't want to use the word affordable housing. I mean, one of the things that we did while I was on the Planning Commission was to pretty dramatically increase the rental housing units. We put 1,000 new rental units in. A lot of people were concerned about that. What was it going to do to traffic? What was it going to do to the neighborhoods? Based on the location, across from Hewlett-Packard, down on Wolf Road, in City Center, and across from PW on Homestead, in all of those cases, I think we did a good job of protecting the neighborhoods, and basically in all of those, I don't think there was a significant impact on traffic. Now, did that lower the price of rental units? Probably not. Did it keep it from going up? You better believe it. You know, housing is all about supply and demand. We're adding about 5 jobs in the valley, and again, it's a regional problem for every new housing unit that goes in. So if you don't do something to add to the housing stock, it's just going to continue to get worse. So one of the things we did was to add apartment units, and I support that. And then some percentage of those, you may or may not know, are classified as affordable, below market rate, and are administered giving priority to teachers and other city workers to help them get started. Home ownership is going to be a tougher problem. Again, it's a supply and demand. We can maybe be creative with somewhat more denser things, and we've done some of that, but it would have to absolutely stay within the character of the community and the character of the neighborhoods.
Mr. Lowenthal.
I've got some firsthand and recent experience here in affordable housing. I'm on the board of CCS. CCS oversees affordable housing for our city, and we're looking at doing a project now where the fire station is today on Stevens Creek Boulevard, and it looks like we're proposing putting in some below market rate housing units there. The issue will be working with the community to make sure we have something that fits in the community, and that's really the only issue. There's plenty of will to build affordable housing units, and I'm an advocate for it. And the only issue is how do we keep those neighborhoods happy? And we need to. We're right in the beginning of the process of talking to the people that live there and what works for them, and that's where you have to start. But you know, we do need affordable housing units. We have other possibilities. I was in a discussion just this week with some people at Compact. You know, they want to build some offices down there on their parcel on Stevens Creek Boulevard, and we said, you know, if you're going to do that, what about doing some affordable housing units, since that's an area of the city that doesn't have a neighborhood issue, and they are open to it. And so I think we need to keep working at this issue. We can't we can't let it go away, and we can't, because it's a difficult issue with the neighborhoods, doesn't mean that it will go away, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't face it. We need to work with the neighbors, find out something that works for them, and then make these projects a reality. And in CCS, we're doing it, and there will be probably 24 new units in Cupertino as a result of this project that CCS is doing.
Michael Chang?
Yeah, I think that a healthy community allows different kinds of people to live in the community. And I think that there are in particular certain groups of people, I would even venture out to say, that are almost critical to the community. I'm thinking about teachers. This was discussed in our last, the panel before us. Emergency personnel, fire and police. When we have the next big one, I sure hate it if our firefighters and our police, our sheriffs need to travel an hour or two to get to our city. So what I have done is that I've sat on the Affordable Housing Committee as a representative from the City Council, and we work some of our criterias. And what we have tried to do is to work in our criteria so to give these categories of employees a higher priority that would increase their chance of getting the below market rate units as a way to retain them in the city. I would be open to other ways of helping. The city is not super rich, but I think that this is such an important issue, such an important regional issue, that we should be part of the regional solution. Maybe we could help in providing some incentive, maybe lower interest rates, maybe helping with some down payments. But we need to make a very visible effort, I think, in this area to show that we want to keep our community vibrant, and by vibrancy I mean diverse socio-economically in many other ways.
Thank you. And now we come to the closing statements. You each have 1 minute to give your final word to the group assembled here and the ones watching on TV, and we'll go in the reverse order to the way we started. So we'll start with Orrin Mahoney.
This will be short. Experience, commitment, and a balanced approach. These are the qualities I bring to the job of the City Council member. These are the qualities I've demonstrated in my 32-year career at Hewlett-Packard, in my 8 years on the Planning Commission, and in all aspects of my community service. I look forward to the opportunity to be your City Council member for the next 4 years.
Michael Chang.
Hi. I've enjoyed my 4 years. I think they've been very productive 4 years. There's many things to do. The issue of overseeing the decision on the library, Valco, traffic, public safety, the compact land, all those are important decisions. As I mentioned to you, a lot of people have actually been asking me to think about running for the county supervisor's position. And as I've mentioned to you tonight, that my decision is not to do that next year. And I think that this will allow me to focus truly even more on Cupertino. I think I've got a lot of energy and a lot of new ideas that I would like to see here in Cupertino. Besides, it'll give me more time with my family too. So I hope that if you like what I have done, that you would consider re-electing me to office for a second and final term on City Council. Thank you.
Richard Lowenthal.
Thanks. I'm excited about working with the community, and I'm excited about making Cupertino even better. Cupertino has a great community spirits. We have wonderful schools. We could help the schools a little bit, but it really has united us. I'd like to see us have more things for families to do here. I think we ought to have places to go shopping. I think we ought to have recreational trails. I think we ought to fix up Valco, and I think we ought to have places to go get a cup of coffee and see our neighbors. And I'd like to see that done in Cupertino. I'd like to have whatever our version of a downtown is here in Cupertino, so you can go somewhere and meet your neighbors and mingle with the diverse community we have. I think if we have those things and things for us to do in the city, and we're not driving out of the city for everything that we do, which is what most of us do today, that issues of diversity will melt away as we spend time together, and issues of traffic will be in much better shape as we find ourselves walking in our city instead of driving everywhere. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to repeat the disclaimer I made at the beginning. The League of Women Voters produces these candidate forums as part of its mission, but it never supports or opposes candidates. We want to thank the City of Cupertino, the American Association of University Women, and the Parent Teachers Association for sponsoring this candidates forum. For more information, be sure to check the internet on www.smartvoter.org. And thank you, candidates, for participating.